So first of all, I just want to say thank you all so much for coming. Day before Thanksgiving. I know this day looks a lot different for many of us. We're not traveling, but just feeling really thankful that you all joined us today to hear Wil talk and just network and be part of this community. And speaking of things that we're thankful for, we are thankful for our sponsors, which make free virtual events like this possible. So huge thank you to our virtual event sponsors, Rocket 55 and Blue Key Media. Thank you so much. And also huge shout out to Rank Crankers, Click 360, Nordic Click, and Hook Agency. So as you can see, there's still some real estate here. If you want to see your logo up here along these grates, please email sponsorships@mnsearch.org or contact Jason Sem. He is our sponsorship director and would love to talk with you. So, board of directors, you can't see all of our faces right now, but we are working tirelessly behind the scenes to make these events happen. So we actually have an opening right now, very important position for our diversity director. This person will be responsible for really guiding our efforts and holding us accountable for all of our D&I work. So if you or anyone you know would be interested, please don't hesitate to apply. We would love to talk to you. And if one of the board members could throw that job description in the chat, that would be great. So, excuse me. So, MnSearch memberships. Yes, events are free right now, definitely. But for just $125 a year, you could join this fabulous community and support an organization that is truly all volunteer based. And the best thing about this is whenever we can go back to in person, you can just kind of flounce right in, get your fajitas, get your beer, and you're already there. You're already a member. So isn't that just worth the money, not having to worry about that? So if you're interested in becoming a member and supporting us, head to our website. Email us at members@mnsearch.org or just talk to any one of us and we'd be happy to get you set up with that. I am very excited to announce that this year's holiday party is going to be a virtual trivia night. So it's not just local, everyone can attend. So we will be hosting this to support Second Harvest Heartland, which is a food bank that supports Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so we take up to, it's 1 to 6 people per team, and the winning prize is free MnSearch Summit tickets. So those run about $400 a pop, so that can add up pretty quickly. So join us for some drinks, fun, and trivia. And I would like to mention, some people have been asking, like, is this just SEO trivia? No. We do have a couple of questions around that, but it's going to be, there will be a topic for everyone. So if you want to sign up, we just sent out emails to the whole MnSearch crew today. And if a board member could maybe throw in the link to sign up, you just need one team captain to sign up your whole team. So we really look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a very fun time. And the reason you're all here today. So little story, the first person I ever saw speak at my very first MnSearch was in fact Wil Reynolds. And needless to say, I was completely blown away by the speaking style and the data top of my mind was just like, phew. So he is going to be gracing our virtual stage again tonight, talking about turning search data into business and customer strategies. So with that, we'll give a virtual round of applause, and Wil, take it away.
All right, cool deal. So let me do a screen share. I assume that's the way to do this. And, you know, when you go into presenter mode, let's see what they do, if they let me. So I assume everything looks good?
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome. Okay. So I think I may have to go a little early today. We'll see. So I'm going to try to get through this so we can really get to the Q&A because that's the coolest part. All right. So let me get my clicker going. It was just working. There we go. All right. So you know what? I'm going to start off today. I'm going to start the first, probably third, not being too technical. And the reason why, let me adjust my screen there. And the reason why is because, you know, something I think that we've forgotten along the way is that it's really cool to help somebody find an answer to something they're looking for. Like, you know, when you think of what we do as search folks, for the most part on this call, like we help people to find stuff that we think might solve their problems. Like that always feels good, like no matter what it is. And, you know, all of us produce content, but one of the things I haven't done in a while It's funny, sometimes when you present as much as I do, and I so often would try to always come up with something new, something new, something new, and you start realizing that you have really good old stuff that people have never seen. So for instance, like one of the things that I started doing is showing people actual video walkthroughs of people engaging with the content that we built. And I will tell you, there is nothing more rewarding than when someone's like, yo, this is really good. Like when somebody who would have used the content is like affirming that what you built would have really helped them. My favorite example of this one, and I can't show it because we don't have the rights to show this person's face and all that stuff. It was a contractor. And the contractor went through this guide that we had on how to build a deck for one of our clients. And he was like, yo, if I had have found this, this would have saved me like 4 trips to Home Depot in the same day. And we're just like, yes, like that feels amazing. And that's why I love digging into data the way that we do to find those kind of insights, because it's very expensive to sit there and talk to people and watch them engage with the web one by one by one. So that's why we like to take our data and find ways to slice it up. And also that's why I'm still pumped about search 20 years later. Like that job never gets old for me. Like the idea of helping people to find what they're looking for is a pretty dope job. I've always said, people have often asked me, what would you do, Will, if you weren't in SEO? You know, what would you do? I'm like, I'd be a concierge. Like I wouldn't put up with people's shit, like snotty people, but there's something that's really cool about somebody coming into your city and you learning a little bit about what they're looking for and helping to guide them to have the best experience that they can. So it's just another way that I exercise that through search. So one of the things that I also realize is I tend to talk about some pretty big topics, and I mean, that's my whole job at Seer, at least. It's like, look at like, where does this industry need to be going over the next 2 to 3 years? And very often what I find is that we also have to help our points of contact to convince their CMOs, chief growth officers, chiefs of digital, whatever those titles are, to let them do things. So then I've started to, and this is something we just don't talk about enough. Like, honestly, we don't talk about this enough. I think we rarely have chief marketing officers on our stages to talk to us as practitioners about what their day-to-day is like. I know I don't see them when I go to most conferences, right? But they're the people who all of our work rolls up to. So shouldn't we learn a little bit more about what they want? And so I look at the CMO survey is one. This is also a study done by McKinsey, I believe, because I don't get that at conferences. I have to read these kind of these articles and these surveys where they start looking at the most successful CMOs. And the number one thing that a CMO says for the top CMOs that they say that drives their success is consistently being the voice of the customer at the leadership table. And it is the number one factor by far that they feel drives their success. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And you know, it's funny when you think of the voice of the customer, it's like search's voice of the customer. You know, we get that at scale. Like every one of those search keywords, every one of those n-grams, like I was talking about earlier, it's like it's a clue into what your customer is seeking. But yet, I think so often we think about our job as ranking shit, right? And saying like, oh, okay, well, I got to rank this thing. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's so much more information out there for us to take the data we already have. Another thing that I mentioned earlier was the CMO survey. I like to understand where CMOs are talking about uses of machine learning or AI in marketing. And it's like, okay, personalization. When I think about personalization, I'm trying to think, yeah, I mean, this is recorded, so I have to be careful of giving you all my things that I'm working on. Think about this. So often, when you look at landing pages that are built for campaigns, like paid campaigns, is the thing I'm really focused on these days. A lot of those queries bring up people also ask questions, don't they? Those people also ask questions are coming from Google running. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'll be right back.
2020. This is like my favorite part of 2020. How real has it gotten for everybody, right? Because here we are, you know, looking at an awesome presentation, and there's a dog. There's somebody at the door. There's real life happening. So somebody like me has to come on and be like, real life is happening. So, but it's so 2020. Yeah, what do
I
you
would
think, Abby?
I would like to share one cute story as I was on a client call and his 3-year-old came in and the dad was just like, so what color was on the door? And the kid was like, red. And he's like, so what does that mean? Daddy can't play. He's like,
Oh
okay,
my
I'll play with you
goodness.
after. It was the cutest thing ever.
That's awesome.
2020,
2020,
there's a
2020,
bright side.
baby.
2020. You know what? We handled
2020
it in
and,
stride.
and
This
being
is
a dad, like trying to balance all the stuff.
we're professionals, we're dads, we're real people. This is what happens, right? So
Nice.
anyway, enough with this peanut gallery. Back to you, Will.
No worries. So it's like, how can you personalize an experience that you don't even know exists? And I'm going to show you thing after thing after thing that just breaks my heart to see, because you watch paid search marketers drive people to landing pages on keywords that search the SEO marketers know that people also ask queries that are showing up. And it's like, well, if Google's already learned that these are the questions people are asking, how can we ignore that when we're targeting these keywords? There's a product in there. So there are a few different ways that I want to cut up what I believe makes a great customer experience. And the first one is, I believe great customer experiences are personal. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at this search. Let me just clear up my screen a little bit so I can see everything. Wedding dress for women over 50. This is the kind of long tail stuff that people ignore or they are unaware of, and they get matched to. And when you get matched, you know, the word for, anybody in e-com, I'll even say not e-com, SaaS is good for this too. The word for and the word with completely change the meaning of the word that comes before it sometimes, right? Like wedding dress, excuse me, is very different than wedding dress for a woman over 50 or for over 50. So I Googled the word wedding dress for woman over 50. Shady, interesting, right? Like when you study Google all day, and I'm not one of those like Google's evil people, but you start noticing things that you're like, that's whack. Like Google knows that the words over 50 is related to age. Their machines learned that ages ago. So why are there no faces in the ads at the time that I did the search? Well, let me show you a couple of these. Like, all right, homegirl ain't over 50. And if she is, God bless her. She surely ain't over 50. I mean, I know black don't crack and all that, but no, that girl is not over 50. So what's interesting is Google's cropping out the faces for things over 50, for words that include over 50, at least at this time when I had done this screen grab a couple months ago. And that entices the click that you as a marketer pay for, even though the models are not over 50 models. You can't even tell that because when Google chooses to cut the faces off, your customer has to click on those to then come to this page and be like, oh, hell no. So one of the ways that you can overcome this issue is by using visual APIs. So Google's got theirs. If you just even Google the word age verification API, you can literally upload a photo and it will tell you what they project the age of the person to be. So if you were to look across a bunch of words that are including like over 50 style words or over 20 or over 30, you want to make sure that your models or your images are showing people who fit the age demographic that I just said I wanted in my query. So Google Visual Search is great at saying like, this is a watch. And it gives you a lot of other factors and how confident they are about those factors. And then it even finds things like logos in images. And what I'm going to try to do today is walk you through how you might build something like this at scale. So let's just say you have a series of product images. This is especially important if you're in e-com. You upload them into the Google Cloud Vision API, and then it'll start to give you all those factors for that image. Then you say, well, that image is showing up for keywords that are triggered by these words. So then you can say, are those words and what Google knows about those images similar? If they're not, it might be a great opportunity to either change your content, change your images, or do something slightly differently on how you're targeting those folks. Thank you. Dinner's here. All right, cool. I swear I won't eat until the Q&A. But there's a little bit of an elephant in the room, And I got to talk about it, which is that Google's hiding 28% of your paid search terms. I mean, seriously, Google, this is one of those things that like I really, when Google came out with not provided for us SEOs and everybody went crazy about it, it's like Google doesn't owe you telling you what the keywords are that people are searching for when you get that traffic for free. But when I'm paying for it, that's whack. So what we did is we ran an analysis after Google made this change on about 1.3 million clicks or so, 1.4 million different clicks. And we literally looked at the CPA for the keywords where we could see the query versus the keywords where we couldn't. Do you see that the queries where we could see the word, it was a $36 CPA, and it's just an average across all of our clients. So it moves up and down. I mean, we actually, below, you see I have it blurred out. We have every single client broken down. Earlier when I was in our networking session, this is what I mean when you put your stuff in BigQuery, you can do this at scale. So we were able to find the clients that were most affected. But you literally look at that second CPA, you're like, that's $60. Like, so you're telling me if Seer's average CPA for their average client is $36.16, for the queries we can see, and it's $60 for the ones we can't see, that's a problem, right? It's a major problem. So here's a little secret, my friends. Google paid doesn't show you where you get an impression and no clicks. They usually only show you the search terms that you get clicks on, right? At least one click. Bing, my friends, gives you all the words that just trigger an impression. So what we realize is we get 8x the amount of data on search terms out of Bing than we do out of Google. So now we're in the early phases of looking at testing our campaigns on Bing, where we get all that information and all the impression information super early, and then only turn on the words in Google that pass the sniff test. So there's a backdoor way to do that, which I don't have time to talk about today. Another thing about customer experiences is that, they've got to be something that they can come to rely on. So they got to be accurate. And if I Google the word, is Wells Fargo open on weekends? What bank do you think I belong to? Wells Fargo, probably, right? But this is not Wells Fargo. And the thing about answer boxes is we're search nerds. So we're like, oh, it's an answer box. I know that might not be Wells Fargo, but the person who types in words like, when is St. Patrick's Day and always gets the right answer, or when is the Super Bowl and gets the right answer, or who won Super Bowl 16 and gets the right answer, they just start believing that those answers are always right. So therefore, if I were to search this word and storebusinesshours.com is ranking, and I go to Wells Fargo on a weekend, and they're not open, I'm going to be pissed. So once I found that, I said, well, shouldn't we be able to find this at scale? So then you take all the people also ask questions that include your brand name. You take all of those, and then you look at what percentage of them do I own? And you can see all these different brands own the singular answer, the single answer for instances that are including your brand. And I would recommend that you clean this up. Big time. And if you're ever trying to have a conversation with an executive, especially a brand executive, this is one of the ways to make really good inroads with them. Because Go Banking Rates gets the blame? No, they don't. Wells Fargo is going to get the blame. I'm going to say, oh, Wells Fargo got it wrong. I don't even know if people are going to think Google's gotten it wrong. So how would you do this at scale? You get the rankings for all your keywords. You also bring in all the people also asks. Then you take all the domains that are answering those people also asks. And then you join all of your paid data so that you get all your cost data into that. And you can say, hey, why would you spend this much money on a keyword where Google believes a singular answer is the right answer and you don't own it? Like, why are you paying for the click if you don't want to go after and own the answer for your brand? Really great way to have a conversation with an exec. Great customer experience are also consistent. What do I mean by that? I search for best savings account for wedding. There's Ally Bank. Cool deal. There's Ally Bank. Cool deal. Well, why does the PPC landing page have 0 mentions of Ally Bank or of wedding when the organic page that ranks in the top 10 has 15 mentions of the word wedding? It's like, Ally Bank, you already produced the content that's right for the customer, right? You've already produced the content that is right for the customer. Why would you ignore that? Now, I'm not saying that the landing page that's built to convert for paid should be this page, right? But shouldn't we try to make this page try to convert a little bit better, like a paid page would, while also respecting the fact that we got to talk to a customer in their language? Nope, typically not done. And this happens over and over and over again. Citizens Bank, you rank number 5 for the word joint bank account. So why is this the page you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to drive people to when they search for joint checking accounts or joint bank accounts? You already have the page. Ah. All right. So what do? You take your high converting PPC search terms, usually non-brand. You pull the cost for each individual search term, and you take all those search terms and run the organic rankings. Then you do a sort on those rankings and say, where do I rank in the top 10 for keywords where I'm also bidding in paid? And I will tell you, 90% of the time, those landing pages are separate pages, especially if you're in anything other than e-com. So most times, those pages are completely different from one another. And that's a great way to talk to somebody about, hey, like there's an inconsistency here for your customer. It's not about Google. It's not about algorithms. It's not about any of that crap. It's about, shouldn't we be making your customer experience more consistent? All righty. I've started to work on a way to do that at scale by taking every landing page that we have, paid landing page, and engramming the landing page so I know what words are on the landing page. And then you engram all the search terms that drove to that landing page, and you can start to see mismatches where, wait, why do I have X number of instances of this word being mentioned as an engram? So that means people are searching for that word from my search side, driving traffic to this page. But when I engram the actual page itself, there's 0 mentions of that word on the page. All right, great customer experiences are also relevant. So let me give you an SEO example here. I search for something like, how many keywords can I rank per page? And Moz is ranking with an article from 2008. 2008. Like, I mean, I love Moz, I love Rand, I love all those people, but that's probably not going to be the right answer. Rand, love him. But man, dude, like one, as high as 15, maybe 20, wrong. So here's a page that I compete with for one of my clients. This page ranks for 1,158 unique keywords in the top 20, where my client spent $33,000 in a year. I tell you that to say that advice is old and it's wrong, but it still ranks, which means when customers get to that page, they are getting outdated information. Really important to try to find antiquated answers and update them so that your customers get relevant answers to today. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. So, you know, whenever you get a ranking report, the way that ranking report is delivered to you is somewhere, somebody scraped Google, they put in the word, they scraped Google, and they took out where you rank. But when they scraped Google, they also got a lot of other information that they just don't typically, that people just don't make available to you or you don't use. So this is how many days old something is. So my friends, what we do for our clients is we bring in every search term that's in our data warehouse, which I talked about earlier. We already have to scrape it for the ranking, so we also bring in that publish date that Google shows, which means I can instantly find out across every client, show me every page and every URL that is over X number of days old, and then are they ranking for keywords that my client is spending money on and getting conversions on? And then I go to my client like, hey, this piece of content is 8 years old, and it's ranking for X number of keywords in the top 10, and you literally are spending $20,000 or $30,000 a year, and I can't get $500 or $1,000 to write a new piece of content. And then, my friends, what you have to do, so think about the way you discuss the ROI of content. I want you to stop and think about it. When somebody goes, well, how do I know what this article is worth? Now think about how you're going to answer that question typically. And now let me tell you how we answer this question with this data. I'll say, hey, client, you see that keyword? Yeah. You see that that landing page is 8 years old and ranks in the top 10? Yeah, what that tells me is it is possible to rank for 8 years in the top 10 for this keyword. Do you see how much you spend per year on average? Yeah, so multiply that number by 8. So if you spend $20,000 on these keywords per year, and this piece of content's been able to consistently rank for those words over those 8 years, the ROI on that piece of content is not 1 year. It can be up to 8 years because I have the proof that shows that it is possible to rank on that keyword with a piece of content that is 3, 5, or 8 years old. And the good part is about that is I'm not using my experience or anything like that. I'm literally using the facts of what is currently ranking on Google. So there is no like, well, Will, what do you think about the ROI of the content? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you what I think when I have the data at my fingertips to tell you these are the pages I would build. Here's how long I think you can earn a top 10 ranking if you build the right content. And here's how much you spend on these words. Give me some budget to go like get you that traffic at a much lower cost. So like I can give you a little bit of a peek here, so you can see like Fiber on Decking. They have a page that my client is bidding on keywords. That page ranks for 761 different keywords. That piece of content is 1900 days old. And I'm looking at, on the right-hand side, all those different 761 search terms and how many clicks we've gotten on them, how much we're spending on them, how many conversions we got on them, etc. That's how you make your pitch. And here's that old ass piece of content. And I look at it, and what I try to do is I try to show my clients, like, could we do better than this? And the clients are like, of course we can write something better than that. And it's like, then let's do it, right? And I think there's something visceral about seeing what's outranking you for something that you're spending thousands of dollars on that can start to convince clients that it's worth doing that. And then when all your data just sits in a data warehouse, you just click on domain, because this is for every client, guys. So I just click on domain after domain after domain. If we sign on a new client, once they do like 4 clicks, that gives us access to their paid search account, they just show up as another domain, and all their competitors show up. And this is another one and another one and another one. So as you can imagine, it works really well and it can operate really fast. All right, I'll skip through this one. Talked about that enough. All right, great customer experiences are understood. What do I mean by that? Okay, so we took and n-grammed every search term for every client in our data warehouse, came up with those like hundreds of millions of rows. And then we started looking for words like how do, and we started looking for different clients that had outliers with like how do words, because it was just a hypothesis. And that's the beauty of having this data at your fingertips, is you hypothesis test faster because somebody's already made it available for you. And it's not like, well, how am I going to have to build the query to get the data? It's like, no, we've already built something that has every n-gram for every client, blah, 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 blah. So what we noticed is that Drexel, who's an online university, is one of our clients. Clients been with us for 13 years. It's crazy. I used to be their account manager when Seer was like 5 people. And we started seeing like, how do I and the word become was an outlier. So we're looking for outliers here. That's what that number 28 is for. And I'm like, why is Drexel such an outlier here? And let me tell you what we found. So we found that words that included become were driving clicks on this paid search ad. And it's like, oh my God, people who are looking for library information science degrees only. So this is, guys and girls, this is why broad-based recommendations on your experience are dumb. And I'm a 21-year-old, 21 years in the space. If I were to go out and say, oh, you should put become for education words in front of your in your ad copy, because I'm going to show you the impact of putting the word become in here, you would be wrong. It's almost specifically concentrated within library science because people want to know how to become a librarian. So when we saw the word become as an outlier, we were like, oh, what client is that for? Drexel. Okay, great. Now let's go test this concept of become a librarian over MS library information science. It's really the main thing that we changed. I think it's the only thing we changed. Well, we got 174% increase in click-through rate, and we had a 35% decrease in cost. All because we n-grammed every single piece of every single search term for every single client, and then we went looking for outliers. And we got clues that said, hey, go test this, go try this, go test this. I'd mentioned it earlier, so I do have it here, where we found that FDIC was a keyword that was spiking for a client. That was the peak of the early parts of the peak. It was late March. So pandemic started. People were worried about their money. We found that for one of our clients. And I blurred out all the search terms. So where you see all the blurriness next to all the bar charts, it's literally every single engram for every single client. We were able to see which ones were growing after COVID and which ones were shrinking after COVID to try to better understand our clients' customers and the words they were using to describe their problems. I get chills just thinking about this, man. This one was dope. It was so much fun to build because we knew we had the ability to find this insight at scale for every client. And we ran an analysis on the pre and post COVID changes in their customers' language for every client and recorded a video giving them strategy for every client in 2 days. And now that that's built, we can just repurpose that anytime we want for any other types of changes that are going on in the country. So what do? You take all your search terms, you engram all those search terms from paid, right? And then you start to sort by different types of words, and you will start to find the words that people are using. Hey, are people looking for safety words? Are they looking for become words? And it just becomes a game of hypothesis testing versus like, I mean, if you don't have this at your fingertips and you had the same idea, you're like, well, what am I gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to download all those keywords. Then I'm gonna have to find a tool to engram them all the publicly available tools, and even some of the paid ones, they don't do it well. And then I gotta stitch together all my paid data on the engram, which isn't the full word. So then how do I do that? It's a pain in the ass. But once you do it once, you have it forever. All right, speaking of safety, when you scrape out all those people also ask questions to get the domains and whatnot, you also bring in the question. So then so when after the pandemic started, we were like, okay, let's start looking for different words. Safe. Is this safe? Is that safe, right? So we said, show me every question across every client where a people also ask box is triggered in the top 10 and the content, not in the answer, the content in the question itself includes the word safe. We found that we had 30,058 unique search terms across all of our clients that triggered 6,116 unique questions where the word safe was in the question. And then I could look at, what are my conversions like for these clients? So is it actually showing up for safety words for words that actually, or is safe, sorry, let me make sure I get this right. Is safe showing up in the people also ask question? Then I can get all the words that are triggering that people also ask question that includes safe. So then I'm saying that Google's already learned that safety might be on people's minds for these keywords. And then I was able to say to the client, hey, that keyword doesn't really convert for you, so who cares? Or like, hey, that keyword converts a ton for you, and this is on your customer's mind. So let's make sure we talk to them about safety. And I could literally look at every single question for every single client and say, oh, this one question is like the second one there is blank safe, right? I'm like, okay, client, that question is showing up for 1,705 unique search terms. And here's the impact on your CPA. So if my client's like, oh, I have a $5 CPA target, and that's a $13 CPA, I go, maybe we're not answering that question really well because all the keywords that are triggering that ad have us way over our target CPA. All right, so if you want to understand your customers better, again, you take all those PPC search terms, you run the rankings on them. But instead of just looking for where you rank, you just say, also give me the people also ask. Once you take the questions out, you then have to join the cost and conversion data. And for me, that gets really like, it's not too crazy math, right? But it's a little bit math specific because you're taking the search terms and breaking them up. So you want to make sure that you have somebody who understands statistics just a little bit, better than me, which I was horrible at math, to be able to validate the way that you're doing your cost and conversion data. But like you see I think there's a power when you're constantly talking to your client about customer insights, right? It puts you on a different plane than when you just talk about rankings. And all I'm doing is pulling rank data. I'm just looking at more of the data that I'm given. All right, so great customer experiences are also aligned. What I mean is that they share language. If I search for CRM for financial advisors and you bid on an ad, I'm hoping to see a page that talks about financial advisors CRM. Man, Pipe Drive, I love you guys, but where's the shit in here? You got Nike deal down there. right? You got Marie Kondo, you got Elon Musk, like, you're funny, Oprah Winfrey, like, yeah, all that cute shit isn't answering my question. I'm typing in, remember how I said the word for is a big deal? This is exactly what I'm talking about, my friends. For changes the word CRM. It's not just CRM. I'm looking for a specific use case. So then you have to make sure if you're spending enough money on these words that you're actually trying to answer that use case, or you're just wasting your money. Whereas Wealthbox is at least saying, hey, it's for financial advisors. It includes the word wealth. Okay, cool. Like, right? Like, it feels like a little bit more for me. You know, but come on, Pipedrive, like, that's whack. So then I always like to show people this joint checking account example again. You know, this is an expensive keyword. And you look at the word joint checking account, and I clicked on every paid ad. And I just keep showing this over and over again at conferences, because it's like, we have to realize that this is happening on every one of the accounts that we manage. So how are you going to find this? Joint checking account. It means two people. We all know that. Why the freak hasn't Citibank figured that out? Why are you paying for a click to land me on a page that doesn't talk about joint at all? Then I found Fulton Bank. They don't mention the word joint. They're giving me a regular direct deposit, blah, 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 blah. And then I look at this bank account for weddings page, and I'm like, I'm learning something here. It's interesting. Wedding, right? You see this yours, mine, ours? Like, those are the words I would expect to be around words about joint accounts, because you want to separate what's yours and mine and ours, right? Yeah, Simple. Good job, Simple. Now look at all the other ads that are competing with Simple. Can you imagine what those quality scores are compared to that ad copy? Marcus by Goldman Sachs, open an account in minutes. Dude, I typed in bank account for wedding. Like, whatever, man. We'll just let the matching go on. You can't just let Google run wild with your paid search accounts and trust that they'll just answer the question right. And I want to just say, like, you know, this is what the web would look like if we did our jobs right. We would understand the query and serve up a page for queries that get enough search volume, right? That make it make sense. But this one does. You know, you'd have two people, right? Joint account, two people, right? Like basics when I show it to you, but this is happening to all of us. Notice how they use the word together and shared, and yep, two more people there. Save faster together, together. Notice that even the image of the card that you get has two cards. So who's proven that they best understand their customer? Like, if you were hiring somebody, and it could, if you're going to hire a paid search marketer from Marcus or Simple, which one would you hire based on that example? The people at Simple know something about how to understand their customer at scale and how to build pages at scale that answer their questions. Marcus is just like, I don't know why my CPAs are so high. It's like, because you're not looking at all your queries, dog. All right, great customer experiences. They also share language. Oh, I am showing it to you guys. Okay. All right, so I thought I gave you guys some good stuff in here that I don't have in my typical slides. We have a client, and we found that they were spending a lot of money on a singular landing page. And they were driving a bunch of different queries to this page. So there's 30,000 plus queries going to this one landing page. They spent $1.7 million on those 30,000 queries that are going to that page, okay? And then what we did, I know this is super like, this is rough because this is super like, it's not even alpha yet. But we're taking all those queries and then we're literally engramming the landing page, okay? So when you engram the landing page, we're able to see some mismatches here. Like, hey, we spent $13,600 on words that include check stub maker and $8,600 for words that include check stub, and we don't have the word check on the landing page. And when you see these things built in Power BI, you know what I'm going to say. We're building it at scale so we can do this for every single client instantly by just hitting refresh in Power BI and not having to do this every single time we have a hypothesis. So I built this in a way where I can just type in the word stub, and you can see that $86,670. And then I have to, because this is super freaking alpha, I'm like, as the director of innovation at Seer, like I just build stuff that doesn't, instantly scale, and then I give it to smart people who can scale it. But then we engram the landing pages and we go, oh, the word, if I put in stub over here and I put in stub over here, I can literally see that I spent $86,000 on keywords that I don't even mention it on the page. So then I can go to a client and say, hey, we should either negate these. I don't care about those conversions, right? Like either we should negate them or talk more in that customer's language, because either we're overspending for those conversions or those conversions aren't all that high quality. I love that. That's one of my new babies. Yeah, I love it. All right, so this is a lot of work though. So you have to engram all the search terms and then join all those engrams from each search term, join that to all the actual cost data, and then you have to engram the landing pages. And actually a guy who saw me speak at MnSearch many years ago is now working with us at Seer. And he told me that was one of the first times he had saw me speak, and now he's working with us. And he's one of the people that built out a tool that helps me to throw in thousands of landing pages at scale, and it will engram all of them. And the output comes back in a way that lets me instantly join it to all of our paid data. So thank you, MnSearch. You helped me to find somebody that took me like 5 years to eventually get, but the guy is amazing. All right. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is that great customer experiences seek feedback. You know what is so interesting, right? Is we have these tools, Hotjar and whatnot, and we know what they can do. But how many of us are asking these kinds of questions on our SEO landing pages? What did you think of this piece? Is it great or is it not what you needed? Like, don't we want to know that? It's so interesting to watch people go down rabbit holes about EAT or, some patents or algorithm updates. I'm like, I don't pay attention to none of that shit. I'm like, I need to start asking questions like this on all my landing pages so I can better understand if I'm answering the customer's question. Because whatever Google's doing with their patents or with EAT or with whatever penalties they're putting out there, it's all about helping people to find the right answer, y'all, right? So questions like this: what's the one thing we should change on this page? Right? Like, these are the kinds of questions that if you ask would instantly help you to also build better content today. And I'm going to skip over these last few so we can get to Q&A and I can start eating. But I'll say this: great customer experiences put your individual silos between teams last, because customers deserve to have a quality, consistent experience across all their channels. And we as search professionals are learning more than anybody else. But we're going to have to take a real good look in the mirror and ask ourselves, how data-driven is our content strategy after seeing that, right? One of the things I always talk about is how, in order to get to this point, I had to give up on the same reason why I'm talking to all of you today, which is my experience. My experience is why a lot of people are like, oh, Will's been doing this for so long, he should come and talk. And it's like, no, the reason why I should come and talk is because I don't rely on my experience anymore. Because the minute I started seeing the data, I started seeing how wrong I was about things that I was on stages telling people, because I had only worked on 1,000 sites in my career. And that's not a lot when the web has 1 billion freaking domains on it, right? And I believe that as you try to work up that value pyramid and try to become more and more influential in your organizations, that those CMOs, they're ready for you to pivot. Because remember where we started. A lot of the things I showed you today attach to this. I want to arm those CMOs to better understand what their customer's voice is. And those CMOs at those successful firms, the ones that have the longest tenure, that's what they think their #1 job is to do. And I don't think there's a freaking team on the planet outside of a search team who's going to have this data. And I'm giving a different flavor of this presentation in a little bit. And I'll tell you, for a while, like maybe Facebook kind of had it, right? When you think of graph search with Facebook, but then because of Cambridge Analytica, they had to shut that down. So now that's not publicly available. So yes, Facebook has tons of great data that helps you understand the voice of the customer, but the only person who has it is Facebook. Whereas with Google, every scrape of ours helps us to get more and more clues about how to understand that customer at scale. And that is all that I have. So then I can get into Q&A.
That was awesome. Oh my gosh. Clapping, heads exploding, all of those things. That was amazing.
Don't mind me as I eat my dinner.
Well, can I ask what you're having?
Oh my God, it's like the best burger in Philly. It's from a
Oh,
place called Village Whiskey. And they have these duck fat fries,
Ooh,
which are phenomenal.
duck
that
fat fries
is,
and like truffle fries just take like after you have those, you can't go back to like normal French fries.
You go back with a little tear going down your eye, like,
Well,
These-
on behalf of all of us, thank you so much, Will, for that presentation. I feel like there were so many areas like with the joint checking account example where it's easy for us to be like, how could they miss that? But I'm sure we all have instances like that. So I
that
mean,
one
I
was
think
just, I can spot that, Sin. That was pure broad match bidding on the term bank account, and nothing less than that. People just spending dumb money on an unmodified broad match term.
I think the nastiest thing though is we built a tool that can find that shit in like 15 to 20 minutes because it's happening to everybody. It's happening to all of us.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
as Google takes away these search queries, you're literally not going to even know you're bidding on those damn words. And as you go to more automation, and Google says, oh, use this cool tool, the machine learning, the automation, and all your numbers go up. So therefore, they're giving you that dopamine blast of like, oh, you listen to us, see how much better your campaigns were? And then they're just going to slowly take out 28% of your search terms. And then all of a sudden, you're matching for shit you never knew, but you're so connected to them automating everything that you don't even know where to freaking start to uncover where the freak are they screwing me over. And the place to start is their organic search, which would never rank you for those keywords because it's not what you do.
Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah. So we have a
Google.
ton of questions coming in, right?
Fire away.
all right, here we go. We got one from Angie Schottmuller. How are you pulling PAA data?
So, my friends, well, there's a couple ways. Stat does they structure it really well for noobs. So it's just a click. Literally, if you uploaded 10,000 paid search terms into Stat, they have a little drop down. They're like, do you want your people also asked? It's like, yes, and it's already structured. We use Authority Labs to do most of our scrapes because then we're probably one of their larger customers because we're running probably 10 million keywords a quarter. So as a result, they'll sometimes build special things for us when we have to pull certain things out of the search results that aren't broadly available. But they're a really good company to work with because they're super reliable.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Question from Michael Cleven. I hope I'm saying that right. Google scraping. How do you get the people also? Okay, you answer that one. Can you recommend resources where someone could learn how to do this?
I just dropped a lot of shit. Which this is it? I would say broadly, you got to go to our YouTube channel. I was doing the most interesting thing about, remember earlier when I was saying that people aren't going to do it? Today I was working on another flavor of this presentation and I looked at when the first video I posted on Power BI was to YouTube. It was 40 months ago. And I know, so I literally shared my hottest thing to the entire industry. And like when I walk in rooms, I'm still blowing people's faces off with what we're doing. And these CMOs like, how are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, not only is it that how we do it, I've shared that with the whole industry 4 years ago, and the people working on your account won't even go over to YouTube and watch it for 15 minutes. That's our pitch. It's like we shared it with everybody. Right? So our YouTube channel is probably the best place to go to understand how to manipulate paid data and SEO data and join it together. And for us, it's been probably about 56 months that we've been at this. Like, because I didn't record a video on YouTube the first time I heard of Power BI, right? It took me like 8, 9, 10 months of working on this before I got to a point where I could be like, okay, this is good enough for me to build something and share. So that's where you would start. That's probably the best place to start because we start with how to do a join in Power BI, which starts with the basics of joining your PPC and SEO data together. And then everything else that you've seen today comes off of that core foundation.